Welcome to AI for Everyone, the podcast that demystifies artificial intelligence and makes it useful for everyone, especially teachers, students, employees, small business owners, and lifelong learners. I'm your host, Brett Hansen, a 25-year veteran teacher with years of experience exploring, implementing, and teaching AI. As a Google and ISTE educator, I'm here to help you navigate this quickly changing world with confidence, curiosity, and a focus on ethical, practical use. Each month, we'll explore AI from 4 different perspectives important to everyone. We'll start with AI in education, featuring interviews with top educators and AI education experts. Week 2 is AI in focus, a deep dive into a single powerful concept or tool. In week 3, we'll explore AI in action, where we'll have a practical workshop on a critical skill or discuss a pressing ethical issue. And we'll round out each month with AI in business, bringing you the latest updates and recommendations for small businesses and the workforce with my business co-host, Andrew Clyden. This structure ensures we're always covering the practical tools and future-ready skills you need to succeed and grow. So whether you're new to AI or ready to level up, you're in the right place. Let's get started. Today, I'm thrilled to welcome a special guest who brings a rich and diverse perspective to the conversation around AI in education. Jamey Hill is a passionate educator with 16 years of experience, including a decade dedicated to educational technology and virtual learning. She holds a bachelor's degree in elementary education, a master's in learning design and technology, and has earned certifications from the Macomb Academy for Digital Educators in Generative AI, as well as being a Google certified educator and teacher leader. She is also currently pursuing her ISTE certification, which is a lot of work, I know, because I'm doing it right now too. Jamey's journey is a fascinating one. She began as a Montessori-inspired classroom teacher for 1st, 4th, and 5th, 6th grade classes, believing deeply that the hand is the tool that feeds the brain. Her path eventually led her to the world of technology, first as a tech support specialist for Apple, and for the last 10 years as a virtual school leader. In her current role as a director, she was instrumental in building a virtual elementary program from the ground up and has spent the last year developing AI policy for training for both teachers and students. She's an experienced presenter at conferences like MACL, and she is deeply committed to what's human-centered in our tech-driven world. Jamey, welcome to AI for Everyone.
Thank you so much, Brett. I appreciate you having me. I'm very excited to be here today.
Right. So what, did I pronounce that right? MACL? Is that how you pronounce it, or how do you pronounce that?
I've heard it that way. Some people say McCall.
Yeah. So that's a very nice way of saying you're wrong. That's a nice way of saying you said it wrong.
I've heard it both ways.
McCall. McCall sounds better, so it's McCall. Yeah. Great. So why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? That, something else that's important that'll help us better understand your relationship to technology and education.
Yeah, perfect. Well, I think the introduction you gave was perfect. Thank you so much. I'm glad we connected through ISTE, and that's kind of how I'm here. And yeah, I'm knee deep in that work as well. So as you could kind of hear from my intro, part of my work has always been in developing and designing things that don't exist yet. I'm very passionate about best practices in education. And it's not that I love and embrace AI so much, it's that I love making sure, we're embracing it with fidelity, and is this tool a best practice? You know what I mean? So that's kind of why my hands have stayed in it. So I just realized, over a year ago that AI was progressing at such a fast rate, and we started at work kind of like everybody else. Oh, look at this tool. Look at this tool. Yeah. This is so cool. And it had just become overwhelming. And we kind of took a step back and we were like, what are we even doing? All we're doing is talking about these tools, trying them out. We've got no plan. We've got no guidelines. We've got no vision. Our teachers aren't trained. And so it was kind of a disaster. I know I talked with you. I feel like that's kind of where some people still are landing, right? Kind of don't know what to do. May not have a guidance or a policy around AI at their school.
So it's a complicated issue, yeah.
Yeah. the professional learning networks and conferences I go to, it's at the front and center of the conversation. And it seems to be that if you even have a guidance, you're ahead of, where other people are right now.
Yeah, it's true. One of the other interests for me is the AI in small business world, but also for individuals. I coach some individuals in how to basically go from looking at and using AI as a series of tools that will help me with these little tasks to using it as some kind of an operating system, dedicating themselves to one or two of the major labs or the major systems, and then figuring out how to integrate it for efficiency. And we're nowhere near that in public education, but
No,
people like you are going to get closer.
the business world is always so far ahead of us. I feel like education, which, it's my jam. I'm not putting it down, but I'm saying, like, I feel like we stay dusty and we stay stuck in our ways until we're forced to change. And by then it's like too late. We're really not super innovative. And if it gets
and AI, I'm sorry to interrupt. AI is moving so quickly that it used to be that we would be behind and then we kind of start catching up as new things were happening. Now we're going to be steps and phases behind. It is an important issue.
I know. And my concern too is if we don't step up as educators and people with this knowledge, then other people will start making laws about it. You know what I mean? And I really love being part of those conversations. So that's kind of where that all started. With me building elementary at our virtual school, I then kind of switched gears and we built something called the InnoHub, an internal innovation team. And those are the people that were like testing out these tools. So I kind of spoke to you about how we were like we hit a wall. Like, what do we do now? And so that's when we decided, I took the lead on developing a guidance, not a policy, but a guidance. Because like you said, AI was changing so rapidly that I didn't want a policy to be enforced, but I want it to be guidelines that we could like change and edit as we go. No one really knew what we were doing, right? So we started out with how you spoke about like what makes us human. Well, what do we believe here at, our virtual school? What makes us who we are? What are our core values? And with any tool, whether it's AI or anything at all that we embrace, a new curriculum, you always want to stay true to who you are, right? Not just with AI. So we created the guidelines around who we are, what do we believe, and then from there, let's evaluate an AI framework to integrate into our school. So that's how it started.
So you're doing this for a virtual school. Is your virtual school also a brick and mortar, or is it all virtual?
It's not a hybrid. Yep, we're totally virtual. So that makes it a little more unique of a situation.
Well, in many ways easier with technology because it has to happen. You have to use technology.
Exactly. And I would also argue you're not in person. So, with all the AI tools, or cheating is a problem as it was before AI when you're in online school, right? Who knows what they're doing? So there's that whole conversation. Yeah, but at DLAC, that's a really great conference for online educators. We were able to really connect and talk about that as far as it goes. There are other people out there in online schools where they are fully virtual, and they are trying to navigate the AI waters like us. So that's always great to connect there too.
Yeah, I'm putting together a proposal for the next DLAC conference in Atlanta. I know they take a lot of proposals, so it's not a big deal, but I would like to do that.
It is a big deal. And I will come to your session.
All right, great. So are you at liberty to tell us the name of your school?
I'm not sure.
Yeah, so then don't. Yeah, better safe than sorry. Yeah, they might not want to know.
I can ask, and we can always,
Yeah, we can add it to the show notes in case. But
I mean, the thing is, people are sleuths, and I'm one of them. You'll probably find it anyway, right?
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to share it if you don't want to share it. No worries.
Yeah. Okay.
So, what was your first aha moment personally with AI? That first moment when you realized, wow. I mean, most of us have a wow moment if we're pursuing using and teaching AI. What was your first aha or wow moment?
So, not talking about work related, but myself, I remember just dabbling with ChatGPT. And have you heard of Ethan Mollick?
Yeah, I follow his his Substack. Yeah.
Yeah, I do too. And we did a book study on his book, which is amazing. But anyway, he talks about spend like 5 hours in something, in a tool, like yourself,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And I feel like that's what I did with ChatGPT. And I was like, this is crazy. Like, I'm a tech nerd and I've never seen anything like this. Like, what is going to come of this? And I feel like very slowly I realized like this is different than just Googling something. And
Very
it was
different.
kind of like, wow. Like I kind of felt like, you know, in books when, I don't know if you're a reader, but in books when they say there was a moment before the woman died and after we discovered the woman or something. And I felt right then like, okay, like this is a pivotal moment in my life. Like I'm always going to remember the before and after I was introduced to ChatGPT, you know?
Yeah.
But that's what I did. I was a ChatGPT at first. Were you?
Yeah, I started with
Okay.
ChatGPT after one of my students came and asked me about it. He was probably the best student in our school at the time. He wound up graduating his valedictorian in his class last year, but he came and asked me, it was like in January after the Christmas break,
Mm-hmm.
after ChatGPT had come out in November of 22.
Mm-hmm.
And I hadn't explored it yet, and then I did, and that was when I got started. My
Mm-hmm.
aha moments were little ones until I got to until I started creating custom GPTs and gems,
Oh my
and for me
goodness.
that has
Mm-hmm.
been the real. Now I get it. I mean, I love the questions and the answers and better searches and more data,
Prompting.
and then
Mm-hmm.
yeah, and I was stunned by Notebook LM when it came out, and now it's got even
Mm-hmm.
better. But building your own low-level agentic GPTs and gems is really kind of the big step for me. But
I remember
there are lots of ways.
when I was using ChatGPT, and I remember when the GPT store was released, only for the
Yeah,
paid version, and then it was
yeah,
released for everybody. I was so excited. It kind of reminded me of like the TPT store, you know, where you could go
mm-hmm.
create something and sell it essentially. Um, just recently at McCall, one piece of my presentation was the Canva GPT that's integrated already, where it's already like preloaded and you can tell it to
Right.
make flashcards and all this stuff. And yeah, it's just amazing like that exists now, you know, to think of how far it's come in such a short
Yeah,
time. It's wild. Those GPTs, that's wild. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Well, this episode will come out later, but today's the day after GPT released
5.
GPT-5. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I started playing around with it this morning, and it's better. It's definitely
Okay.
better,
Do you think it's
but
faster or
it's definitely faster.
okay?
It has, I think one of the biggest improvements is that now everyone can use the fastest reasoning tools or models within it. So
Uh-huh.
it's the people that it really benefits the most are the free users. I
Mm-hmm.
have a paid account. For paid accounts,
Yeah,
it's
me too.
better. It's just
Mm-hmm.
not like I heard one. I listened to this podcast called Hard Fork, and what they said,
Mm-hmm.
it's evolutionary, not revolutionary. So it's moving it
Yeah.
along, but it's not extraordinary, except
Yeah.
for free users, because free users are now going to get the longer full experience that paid users had before. So
Yeah.
it's
Lucky.
a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah, it is a good thing. Um, when I was first doing, you know, all of that, and we were talking about creating that guidance, while we
Mhm.
were doing that work, some guidances and frameworks were coming down from the state and all, you know, different levels. And what I did instead of reading them, Brett, you mentioned Notebook LM.
Yeah.
I uploaded them into Notebook LM and I let it read to me summaries of those instead of me plowing through all of them. It was a
Yeah.
nice overview. Of course, I still read through, but it was so cool. And that changed fast too. All of a
Yeah.
sudden, it wasn't the man leading the conversation in the podcast. The woman was also taking a lead. Because do you remember in the early days of Notebook LM,
I
the
do.
man was
Yeah.
dominant? And
Yeah.
then, like 2 weeks later, I was at a conference and you could click in to participate in the podcast. Like
Yeah.
it is so neat to me.
Yeah. Yeah. And now they have added, um, I know it's for paid users of Gemini, but you can
Okay.
create a video very much like the audio. And so it is really good for teaching students or for sharing information. I agree with you
Wow.
wholeheartedly about the voices. They've gotten a lot better,
Yeah.
the dialogue back and forth. And I also like the question option where you can integrate and be a part of the podcast episode. I'm hopeful that I'll be able
So
to use
neat.
that with my students next year. This year, we're not activating these tools for students at my school. I
Oh,
wish
are
we
you a
would, but we're
Google
not.
school? Are you like a
Yeah,
Google Classroom school? Oh, you are. Okay.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
So that's one of the reasons why I lean more and more to Gemini and
Towards it.
Google is
Yeah.
because it's worth it as a teacher and an educator and all that. But there's some amazing
Yeah.
programs in there.
With your students though, I think Notebook LM has like an awesome note-taking feature, right? For them.
It
Like it'll
does,
produce
but
notes. Yeah.
it will.
Study guides.
I'm not sure if that's available unless they're a part of the Google workspace, the
Oh,
education
okay.
workspace, and the school
Okay.
has to activate it because technically,
Oh.
before Google changed these regulations for Notebook LM and for the whole Google
Hmm.
Education Suite, Notebook LM was only supposed to be for people 18 and over, so it wasn't designed for
Yes, I
schools.
remember that.
Yeah, but they
Mm-hmm.
modified it and
Mm-hmm.
changed it, and one of the things they added was the notes, and then they have the learning method system that's down below. I just don't know if those are going to be available for my students because I let my students
Right.
use AI in class.
Right.
I think I might be the only teacher that does, but I want them to use the Google versions because they're more
You have
protected. They're
access
locked
to it.
down. Yeah,
Yes.
but we'll see.
100%.
Yeah.
Very cool.
So I could talk about Google
I
all
know,
day,
me
but what
too.
I really want to talk about is your creation of this system. I mean, I
Yeah.
don't
Okay.
know very many people who have created an AI system from the ground up, especially for a virtual school. So tell us a little
Yeah.
bit more about that and what it
Okay.
entails and
Well, it
pros and cons.
sounds
So
a
anything you want to
lot.
share?
Yeah, it sounds a lot more glamorous than it really is. I did not create something that I could like sell that is like so cool and it's like the answer to everything. You know what I mean? But
Hmm.
what I did was what I always do. So before AI, if there was a tool we wanted to use, we would evaluate that tool. Is this a best practice to use this tool in this lesson, right? So fast forward to our framework and AI, we then were like, oh my goodness, we need to not only have guidance, but we need to start training our teachers. We all need to get on the same page here, right? So we started out with just very part one basic defining AI. What is it? Let's get our hands in it. We held sessions for all the staff. I guess I'll just focus on the teachers right now, but we held sessions that were elementary specific, middle school specific, high school specific. So it was really introducing them to our guidelines and also giving them a hand in what do they think the guidelines should look like and say, and making sure they're understood and making sure everybody knew we all have a part in them and they can change, right?
Mhm.
And that we would stay true to the core of who we are at our school. So, because there's a lot of, I know you and I are excited, we like the latest tech and the latest gadgets, but there's also people that are really fearful and also, well,
Yeah.
I am too, but also people that there's pushback, right? Like, I'm not going to use that. So in our part one, it's kind of like defining who we are. Are we going to require that staff use it? Are we going to block certain things? Like, who are we and what are we going to do here? Because at that point, it was like willy-nilly. I remember DeepSeek was released or something at one point, and someone was using that and come to find out like they were like stealing your information on your desktop or something like that at that point. So part one was just defining AI and getting the staff used to what it is and who we are here and creating a framework that was like going to work for us. So Brett, did I create something from the ground up? Kind of the same way I developed elementary, but I leaned heavily on other people, the groups that I go to, the AI for EDU site. They had a lot of good
Yeah.
information.
I've been there.
Yeah, and just pulling information from wherever I could, that would be best practice. I also shout out to Dr. Saba Kudwe. I'm not sure if you know of her, but her
Mm-mm.
WISE method and Spark framework really was helpful. I joined a foundation, or I think it's called a foundation, a group at that point called Human Intelligence for AI in Education. And they really aligned with my beliefs of always start with the human aspect of things and move from there. What makes us human? And as teachers and as students, and what are those skills that are going to take us into the next, century in the workforce, right? What are those skills? It's no longer the 5-paragraph essay, right? It's
I don't think so, yeah.
how well do you prompt, and right, like you're a very innovative educator, and it sounds like, you're not using like the red, yellow, and green stoplight system for AI. You're fully embracing and teaching them how to learn along with it, right?
As much as I'm allowed, yeah. As
Yeah,
much as I
yeah,
can, yeah.
yeah. So, I mean, nothing's perfect. So that was part one, just defining. And then part two, we were like, okay, now that we all know what it is, we need to be able to evaluate these tools, like I talked about. So just like we evaluated things prior to AI, let's evaluate AI in the same way. Does this enhance, engage, and extend the learning? And if not, we're not going to use it, right? And like you said, it's not going away. So we had to decide, are we going to be like the school that uses the red, green, and yellow stoplight system to tell students, they can't use AI? And are we going to get in a rat race of trying to find cheating all day? And just really letting the staff know, like, cheating existed before AI. What did you do then, right? So how are we going to combat that? And not so much punitive, but learning with the student, like why did they cheat? Maybe it was a really bad lesson. A lot of teachers struggle, and I say this with such grace and kindness, but looking inward, like your lesson might have stunk. And the best lesson is one where you could use AI and it wouldn't matter because the outcome is way more awesome than like a 5-paragraph essay or a multiple choice, right? We talk
Yeah.
about what's the point. I mean, just like invaluable learning, as you can hear, I'm really like passionate about. I've always been passionate about best practices in online learning as it is. And so as this wave of AI came about, it just like blew me into again, okay, what's best practice with this? Because kids are going to cheat even more, right? So how do we embrace it and stay innovative and prepare them for what's coming? We don't want them to, at our school, we do embrace it. And we feel that if we don't, they're going to go to college and not know how to use it, right? They're
I
not
think
going to be
so. And
prepared for the workforce.
they're not, and the centerpiece should be some level of engagement. Either they get to choose things that they're truly interested in, or we figure out ways to get them interested in what has to be learned. And then you just don't have to
Yes.
worry about cheating as much if they're truly engaged. Maybe still
If they're
some, of
truly
course, but not as
engaged,
much.
yes. And if you have a good lesson, and if you do have an oopsie, let's talk about why and what didn't you know that I could have helped you with. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So it was kind of like the part two, when we were evaluating, we were also talking about things like that, like how are we going to address cheating? And we decided we're not going to use like ChatGPT 0 or whatever it's called, GPT 0. And we talked about how that was so inaccurate and there were biases and all of this stuff. And how we were really going to embrace the WISE model. That's Dr. Saba
Yeah.
Quidway. And I love how that model talks about integrity, which
Yeah.
is at the core of everything, not just AI, and also your decisions. How do they affect others around you, right? And yourself. I always tell my students, which I don't know, I haven't had students for 6 years now, but I always would tell them, who are you when no one's looking, right? That's integrity. And I would also say learning is a gift. So no one can take that away from you. And so what you take from it is yours, right? So if you, cheat and, blah, blah, the assignment, that's something for hurting yourself. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I do. I agree with all the completely. And I agree with the philosophy of engagement and, who you are is what you do on a regular basis. There's no doubt AI makes it easier to cheat in traditional pathways, but they're going to do that at home anyway.
Anyway,
Like last year, I
100%.
had a lot of students who were not doing the reading or not reading their independent books, and because they could just go get the notes online. And so I made some adjustments, and that's what we have to do. They're not going to stop using AI because I don't let them use it in
They're
class.
not. No.
And so we have to figure out a way to teach them how to do it efficiently,
Exactly.
effectively, ethically. Yeah.
And they say, teachers make the worst students, right? So I'm the first one that's going to find the way to cheat. So, it's like teaching them from that perspective, right? Like, hey guys, I know this would be easier, but just that. So that was part one was defining, part two was evaluating, And then for us, part 3 was integrating. So we actually, all of last year was training teachers, in all of those 3 sections. And so at the end of last year, okay, so we've got our guidance, we've got our training, we've defined, evaluated, we've had lots of sessions, and now it's time to integrate. So now what does it look like when a new teacher comes on board? Well, we have to now include AI training. AI literacy is our goal, right? And also, what does it look like for students? So okay, the staff is comfortable. Now, how are we going to teach our students about it, right? And so we've decided to integrate it into the curriculum. So we integrated it into digital citizenship courses. And in high school, there's a couple courses that are, I think, foundations in artificial intelligence, but those are optional electives. And we wanted to make sure that when you left our school, you could say, hey, I'm ready, I'm prepared. I would consider myself an AI literate student for as what that means. So that's why we put it in the digital citizenship courses. And it's nothing crazy. It appears, I think, 4 or 5 times a semester. And it's the same really as the teacher framework that they worked through. And Brett, I did pull from, good AI literacy frameworks that have already been created. Like, for example, I know I keep shouting out AI for EDU, but there are others that I could mention that we pulled from and made it work for us as well. I think it's called Common Sense Media. Surprisingly, they don't have elementary. They might today, but they didn't when we were integrating. But they did have 6 through 12, so we used some of their stuff.
There's a lot of resources out on the internet
Yeah.
and in, for nonprofit organizations and things like that. We don't need to start from the beginning.
No,
just
you don't need to really
integrate
recreate the
well.
wheel. Yeah, you need to find, you need to be AI, literate yourself, up to date, and then, have a good group of educators that you collaborate with, because no one can do anything alone, right? We need each other. And just bounce ideas off and figure out what will work for your school. And I would say for anyone who's trying to do this, surround yourself with people, right? Don't do anything alone. I would also say start small, because it sounds very overwhelming. So that's what we did. We just started in steps of what's the most important? And it was that guidance, because if we don't have that, we can't do anything, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that offers support for educators that want to use it, because if you have a plan and a system and policy, then they're not alone. I mean, they're not going to end up being the only person using it, and they can move forward at a pace that works for them. I do think, and you mentioned it in your notes before we were talking about the equity issue. Without a doubt, for me, in the realm of education, this is clearly an equity issue. And I see, as a teacher in a rural school, as surrounded by mostly rural schools and one sort of small town school, the difference between what these students are experiencing and learning compared to, say, the school district of Chicago or Miami or Los Angeles or New York, where they've implemented AI
Oh my gosh.
systems and they're allowing them, and you guys are doing it. A lot of online virtual schools are seeing the power and importance of AI, not just for the students, but also just efficiency, saving schools money. There are just so many things. It is going to be, if not one of the most important technologies for the rest of our lives, and we really can't ignore it. So good job.
No, you're so right with the inequities as well. Where my own, I almost called my kids students. Where my own kids go, they don't have anything. My teacher friends are like, what are you talking about? We don't do that. We're not doing any of that. So nothing exists for them. But I always say, again, it's not just with AI. It was prior to AI, all of those inequities that exist in education anyway, right? Even having access to the internet in online school. Some kids, they have, even though we provide it, their internet might not be as stable based on where they live, if it's more rural, so all of that stuff, I'm sure every educator cares deeply about,
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for sharing your experience of building that curriculum. The last thing I'd like to ask you today is to just, if you're willing, tell us about how you either do or don't use AI in your own life, What are your hopes and fears about AI in your own life? I mean, so I'll give you an example. I use it
Yeah.
as an operating system. I more and more consistently use my Gemini paid account
Awesome.
and with custom gems in order
Hmm.
to do all kinds of things on a regular basis. I have been sucked in, and I like AI a lot more than I thought I would, but it's
That's
true.
so cool.
Yeah. So how do you feel about AI in your
Yeah.
own life, and what do you, I mean, there are concerns,
Uh-huh.
but what would you
For
say about that?
sure. Everything with a skeptical and critical eye and best practice eye. But I am, as you can see, a tech nerd and I love education. Like, so ed tech is my realm. I love like the newest little gadget. So it's so sad in my marriage because my husband has to take my phone when it's old and I get the newest version.
There
So
you go.
same thing, same thing with all these like AI tools. I love it. So like I was waiting. Remember, I think it was, I don't know, 2 months ago, maybe a little more, when Canva put out all of their new releases. I couldn't wait to
Hmm.
get my hands on Canva code.
Yeah.
Oh, so I love Canva. I love within Canva the AI, what's it called, suite. I like to use Canva code specifically because you can create literally anything your mind. I mean, I just helped a teacher create flashcards. Like it's almost like a Quizlet. It took
Yeah.
15 minutes for her final exam. And I was talking with her. She wanted to make a Kahoot. And I'm like, a Kahoot takes so much longer to create. Plus, the kids just, there's like a question bank. Why don't you do something that's going to, be done in 15 minutes? It's like a website. You don't have to know a lick of code and they'll get more out of it because they're not playing a guessing game with Kahoot and waiting for music and waiting for all this other stuff. And so
Right.
Canva AI for sure. And then also, I told you earlier, I do love ChatGPT. I'm a ChatGPT girl. I know people have clung onto Gemini and Claude, but I really have stuck with just one. And I know that Ethan Mollick also says stick with one kind of that you love, right? And like get really good at
Yeah.
it. So in my work, I have created some custom GPTs. I definitely have the other ones from the store pinned on the left. And just this week, I used the agent mode. Have you used that
Hmm.
yet? Okay,
I
so I
mess around with
used,
it. I'm a little bit nervous about agent mode stuff. I feel like I have to understand it better before I'll
yeah,
do anything meaningful with it, but I
I
am
didn't do
very
anything
interested in it.
crazy. I didn't do anything
Yeah.
crazy, but I used it to compare competitors, and I was like put together this Excel document. So it was an agent mode, but I think it did a lot of deep research. Created a huge Excel document that would have taken me so long. It even scraped their sites to see who they used for marketing. But
Right.
so what I do, Brett, is a lot like you in my personal life with AI. As a human, we're the creative people. We're the ones with the ideas. AI is not. We're thinking, what tools, what do I need to get this done, right? And because AI is just going to push back, whatever information. It's just fed information that it spits out. I mean, not the agent mode, but so I really start there with what do I need to create and do, and I use it to elevate my work, just like you do. I
Yeah.
feel like I used to work a lot slower. I feel like it's really upped my creativity, for sure. I feel like it's like my
Yeah.
little assistant.
Yeah, I view it that way to a certain extent. For me, I'm extremely creative and have a lot of ideas, but I'm not the most organized person. I don't strive for perfection. So for me, AI has basically, um, I view it as now I'm like three different creative people, and
You've
So
cloned
AI has
yourself
kind of
twice.
cloned in some ways, not because there's so much more happening, but because I can get more done. I mean, I'll leave
Oh my
things
gosh,
running in one
yes.
window and then be working in another on something else. But then also, even in some ways, more importantly, I'm like 6, 8, 10 times as many workers because I just can't get that much done. And I also can't stay
100%.
focused on things that long. So for me,
You
it's
like to
been,
switch it up.
I switch a lot. I'm
Yeah,
ADD, something or
yeah,
another. And so I
yes.
like it when I can go over here and go over
I am
here and
too.
go over here. And the problem with that is it gets confusing. But
Yeah.
I have a custom gem as an assistant, and I just tell it things. I just click the voice mode and I just tell it stuff, and it organizes it and it reminds me things. It's amazing.
I
So
love that you're using it to better, yourself and your work. That's so cool.
yeah,
It
yeah,
complements
that's
you.
what we're working on.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
well, I'll be for anybody listening, I'll be sharing more of this in some of the podcast episodes that aren't with a guest, just individual ones featuring it, and in other ways. So I'll share more about that later. But
Yeah.
Jamey, thank you so much for
Exciting.
giving up your valuable time and talking with me about integrating AI into an actual school system, which there aren't a whole lot of people who have done it yet. And I just appreciate you joining us and sharing your expertise.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It's been great.
Yeah, my pleasure. Thanks for spending time with me today on AI for Everyone. I hope this episode gave you something useful to think about and something new to try. If you enjoyed it, please tell your peers and subscribe so you never miss an episode. You're also invited to join the Hanson Education Services newsletter, where I share bonus tools, practical teaching ideas, and curated updates to help you stay ahead in a world shaped by AI. To learn more, find all the resources mentioned today, and connect with me directly, visit hansoneducationservices.com. That's where you'll find everything you need to keep growing your AI confidence. Thanks again, and remember, the most important 21st century skill is to always keep learning how to learn.